Hi there. Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy Fagan, and my guest today is Elizabeth Bruckner. And we have just been talking, and oh my gosh, you guys, this is going to be super fun. So, Elizabeth is an acupuncturist without needles mostly, or without needles all the time.
Magnet therapy, yeah.
Magnet therapy. And so she has her acupuncture business is called Create Wellness Project, but she also, get this, is an author of a book called The Homesteader Mindset. And we were just talking about this. So when I was starting the podcast, when I was trying to think of a name, one of the names that I was thinking of was Homesteading State of Mind. So we were jiving. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Me too, Amy. I think I just met a new best friend. We're going to talk all things homesteading
Use and acupuncture for sure.
and acupuncture.
But I just want to, before we get too caught up, one of the things that you said in your guest form was that simple small changes can lead to an incredibly connected life. And that just sounds so powerful to me. I mean, that just really hit me hard because people think of changes as like needing to be this big thing. And you're saying it doesn't
Absolutely.
to make a big difference. I know I hear people say, if you just change your direction like a cent, just a tiny, tiny bit. But if after a while you can see that it's a big difference. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. And I love what you just mentioned. It's actually like some scientific proof. If you go off course 1 centimeter if you keep walking in, 2 days, you're going to be miles away from your trajectory. And that sounds really scary, except if you're on a course and you want to get away from that trajectory and you make just a little hairline change, you can end up somewhere quite remarkable with just tiny habits and tiny systems. So, right before we were talking about this, you said everyone has a turning point. And I think that for me, I had always been someone that did really well with systems. My brain works really well with habits. And so I would often get a lot of things done, but I didn't have the habit of self-care.
Hmm.
And so I would burn out. So I'd get really excited. I'd teach people stuff and then I would burn out. And so in
Guilty.
my fifth in my 50s, I learned that too. So what I what I realized with my patients and also with myself is that if we can just start creating tiny routines that will change the trajectory, you can you can overhaul your life in with seemingly little effort. That's the most important thing because a lot of people are exhausted and they don't have enough time and they can barely get food in their bellies,
Right.
and get to sleep at a time where they won't wake up with a migraine headache because they didn't get enough sleep. And they want me to tell them to make a change.
You
Well,
want
if
me
they
to
just,
add something? Excuse
yeah,
me? I don't have time for that.
that's right. We don't have time for that. And so I think my biggest aha moment was when I started learning languages in my 40s. And that's, again, people are like, oh, I've always wanted to learn a language, but I never could, blah, blah, blah. I met this polyglot online, who I eventually ended up working for, Benny Lewis of Fluent in 3 Months. And he was teaching people how to get to a conversational level of fluency in 3 months. That's insane. So, as per usual, I was like, let me jump in and try. And what I did was I learned about the art of learning. I learned about the art of creating a new lifestyle, and I did it in very, very simple ways. And some of the books that I read, like Atomic Habits, and another language learner gave me, Charles Duhigg wrote a book. I think it's The Power of Habit. And it was just like preaching to the choir. I was so excited to hear these things because I was doing some of them already
Mm.
and I was learning from them. And then I went on to teach people how to learn languages. I coach them, I'm not a teacher, like I won't teach you the grammar. You do not want my French grammar, but I teach you how to create those dreams. And then when the pandemic hit, I panicked because I didn't realize how fragile our food system was. And my husband said, why don't we try growing food in the backyard? And I said, sweetie, do you know who you're talking to? Like, do you remember who you married? Like I'm the girl that goes to, this was me 5 years ago. I would go to the garden store and I would say, please, can you give me something that won't die? And then I would promptly bring it home and kill it. It didn't matter if it was in shade, it didn't matter. And I have a cement backyard that surrounds a pool. Nothing was growing. It was, Southern California heat on top of cement, on top of water. It was bad. And still, I knew that the prescription for anxiety is action. And
Mhm.
so, if we have some listeners out there that are suffering right now and they're like, I'm so filled with anxiety and worry, and I can't do anything to change that, one of the best things to do is just take a little tiny bit of action. And so, um, I started looking at YouTube and doing what I did with language learning for homesteading. And I learned I started with container gardening, then I did food forest, and slowly but surely, the next thing you know, months later, of course, I could take somebody through my yard and there were 30 different vegetables that I could harvest for dinner. And that to me was mind blowing. And I also heard when people walk through my garden with me, oh gosh, I wish I had enough time to do this. And I was like, no, it's just one little inch, just one little habit, which I think we should get into later. Like how do you do these habits? There are specific ways to do that. My book outlines it. But more importantly, I wanted the book to tell people it's possible anywhere. It's
Mhm.
possible because I had a chronic illness when I started doing it. And so it's possible if your back hurts or if you're not well or if you have to have 5 days off and one day on, it's possible.
Right. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. There's so much there. Okay, so first, you said languages, and I know you said French, but what else did you learn?
Um, I speak French. My French is my strongest language. Spanish is my second strongest language. I learned German in 3 months and got to a 20-minute conversation. I've dabbled in Arabic,
What?
American Sign Language, Vietnamese, but all of those I don't speak. French and Spanish, those I can get by. And my Spanish, I've got a very Southern California American accent, but
Wow.
people can understand me and I can often understand them, which is really the goal.
Yeah. Well, and so often they're like that she's making an effort. Like we gotta give her some
Yep.
points, man. That's amazing. So you learned all those languages after taking that 3 month course with that Benny guy?
Yeah, he has a course, it's a boot camp, but Fluent in 3 months basically just had blogs and I just did what he said. And one of the things he said, which I think will relate to homesteaders as well, or wannabe homesteaders, is you have to speak from day one. Like you can't prep for something and never actually do it. So if you want to garden, you need to get your hands in the dirt and you need to kill a few plants. Or if you want to ferment, you need to make some slimy onions every now and then. Or you need to have something, my husband got he didn't turn you have to burp the ferments, which means you open them and you pop it a little and let some air out. And so I went away for a weekend and
Gosh,
he texted me and he's like,
plastic glass everywhere.
he was like, the ferments fermented me, like they just fountained. So you have to go through those. From day one, you have to be touching your project and you have to be clear about what it is you want to do. And the best way to do that is, I believe, daydreaming and like really getting clear on what brings you joy. So languages, for the first time in 40 years, which is really sad, it was the first project that I did purely for pleasure. And it ignited me. It ignited my creativity. I was like, this is amazing. I can love what I'm doing. Like I don't have to do everything doesn't have to feel like a sit up. And homesteading can also feel there could be immense joy and delight in homesteading because there's many spokes to the homesteading wheel.
Mhm.
So you get to pick what you love. Like French grammar, I'm not so into it. So when you talk to me, I don't do a lot of work with French grammar because it's not what floats my boat. With homesteading, I at this time my dog would eat my chickens and my backyard is too small. So I'm not doing chickens, and I never will probably ever make sourdough bread. I know that's like a terrible secret because all homesteaders make sourdough bread, but I have a baker that makes 48-hour fermented, and why would I do that? So
Right.
you find the delight, what makes you happy, and start there.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I just fed my starter before we did this, but I have yet to make a loaf of yeast bread, sourdough bread, any yeasty rising bread. I cannot do it.
Really?
I cannot. I've tried so many times and it always I get bricks every single time and it's so frustrating. And then the waste of food, I just it just stresses me out so much. But I'm trying again.
Good.
I'm working on English muffins is my new thing. I can
Ooh,
do English muffins. Okay. They're not like I don't think I would charge money for them, but they're totally edible and they hold the butter and they're hearty and but that's it so far.
it's all about holding the butter, Amy.
Right? I know.
Nothing else matters but the butter. If it's a vehicle for butter, it works.
And homemade butter too.
And have you made homemade butter?
Yeah, that's what I'm putting on my English muffin.
Oh,
It's,
I'm
I mean,
salivating.
just like you, it's a process, like a little bit
Hmm.
at a time. Like
Right.
I'm just working on, I started making butter when I moved here and I made like beeswax wraps and I made, stuff like I'm just playing.
Hmm.
And it's super fun. And it's, when it fails, it's really hard, but um, you don't learn if you don't do it, right?
You don't learn if you don't do it. You really don't.
Anyway, so Homesteader Mindset
Mhm.
is your book, and you're talking about exactly this.
Yes. So I take three different groups of people, characters, a young woman in her 20s in an urban area, a married couple with kids in a suburban area, and a retired couple in a rural area. And I explain how they went from knowing nothing about homesteading to having a homesteader mindset. And in most cases, like the retirees in the book, didn't even know that they were homesteaders. I didn't know I was a homesteader until I started looking up how to ferment stuff. And I'm like, oh, what are all these? What's homesteading? What is that? Am I a pioneer woman? Like, what is that? And so this book explains, we're using story to teach people how to create a homesteader mindset because I think that for me, I really learn better with story. A lot of people enjoy story and you can relate to the characters. I'll probably use these same characters for the next book, which will be about a kitchen revolution, like
Mm.
really creating systems because people don't know how to cook.
Yep.
You had mentioned earlier, like, I might describe you as crunchy. You might have been crunchy for a while. This is pre-podcast for the listeners that are like, did I miss that? Did I go too fast? And yes, I have been very crunchy. I mean, I have a master's degree in Oriental medicine and acupuncture. Like
Right.
that's pretty crunchy, herbs
Yeah.
and however, I had some blind spots, and one of them was I didn't cook. I thought it was cute that I didn't cook because I was an intelligent career woman. And, I'm going to buy the all organic stuff at the store that has the cute happy cow and the, pretty little pastel colors and all the ingredients look great. And that caused me to get really sick because there were seed oils in it. It was processed, highly processed. And so, when I think about where my turning point was from being like, when did I go from crunchy to crunchy? It it's funny how you can have blind spots and be a practitioner and say, it's important for us to have good food, and then I'm coming home and I'm not cooking myself. I do know how to cook now, but 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I didn't know how to bake a chicken.
Right. Well, there's so many I'm struggling with things like this. I mean, I cook I live alone. I have nobody else is cooking for me, but and there's nothing here that's not fried. But there are so many I have this like lack of balance in my life. Like
Hmm.
I can imagine in your mind you're like that's not my it's James Clear that says your zone of genius, right?
I don't know. That's probably from a book I haven't
Maybe
read,
it's
but I like
maybe
it.
it's someone else, but like your zone of genius. So like focus on what you're good at
Yes,
and let someone else focus on what they're good at. If someone else is really good at cooking and you like to eat but not necessarily cook, you know, that works, right? But then at the same
absolutely.
time, like with podcasting, for me, I'm like, I am not a tech person. Here I am doing this, but I'm like, I screw up all the time, but I want to understand how all the things work because people are
Hmm.
like, you can hire an editor, you can hire blah, blah, all these people. I'm like, yes, I could, but what if something happens? I'm like totally lost. Like, I want to know how it works. I'm probably not going to do it great, but
Yes,
you don't get better if you don't practice.
you don't get better if you don't practice. And cooking doesn't have to be your circle of genius.
Mm,
It can just be, you can just get by with bare bones and have really good food. And I think that I thought you had to spend hours in the kitchen, you had to make my husband loves French food. That's not happening. I'm not reducing any wine. into a sauce. Like there's no wine reduction sauce for me. It's, I keep it very simple and delicious,
Right.
but real food. And I really focus on creating what I would consider the original fast food. So a baked chicken, for example, right? You get like 4 meals out of that. You can have chicken, like which is delicious, with a side of veggies and maybe a carb. And then you can have a chicken sandwich with put a little cheese on it, mustard, and then you can have chicken salad, you cube it up. And then lastly, you can throw it in the pot and make a very easy soup. Right. And so I think that for me, my biggest misconception, my biggest mental block was that I thought that, and this sounds really arrogant of me, but I thought that busy people shouldn't be doing that. Like it wasn't that important. It was almost like our body, we could outsource that. And you can if you have
Right.
enough money to get a personal chef. I have a friend that's a personal chef in San Francisco. I can't afford her. And I also don't know if I want somebody in my house, every 3 days cooking my food, but you could do that, or you can get now they have things that you can get them shipped to you and they're already cooked and all that stuff. But those are highly expensive. They're not as convenient as they say they are.
Right.
Whereas going to
And
the
with
farmer's
those
market,
things, it's the waste for me.
oh yeah, yeah,
Freezer packs and the big boxes,
yes,
plastic and
yes. It's really sad to see. Whereas you can go to the farmer's market, get to know people that my farmers are my friends now. And when everything's going nuts outside of the farmer's market, there are still eggs there and there's still good food. And when there's these big weird cycles where the stores are empty, the farmer's market is not. And those folks know me and I know them.
oh my gosh, we are so in line.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes to all that. And to your point, like, busy people shouldn't have to cook or, they don't have time to cook or something. We're all busy. That's the thing. I've
Yes.
been saying this with well, my nutritionist is also part therapist for me.
Mhm.
But like I was like, I just want this slow life. Like I want to do the homesteading thing and I boring routine and I want to do the same thing every day and all this and I want it to be so peaceful. And she's like, so why are you doing all these things? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to stop.
Yeah, well, that is the illness of the age too, right? And also curious people tend to want to continue to learn new things and do new things, and then next thing you know, you have a pile of 10 things, and
Again
that's
with the
why,
balance.
yeah, yeah, that's it. The balance is really difficult, and one of the things that I say in the book, which I think I'm going to put on a t-shirt, I'm going to have merch. I'm going to be getting some merch, and the merch is going to say, what is it going to say? Badly done is better than well said.
Mhm.
So Ben Franklin says, well done is better than well said. And I'm like, no, no, badly done. So if I talk to a professor, which I have before in French, they will often be like, make a lot of mistakes. You got to go study some more. Da, 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 da. This particular tense. And I'm like, yeah, but no, because I don't care. Because badly done, like, can you understand me? Did we
Right.
just have a
You know
conversation?
what I'm
That
talking
works.
about.
That's right. And so for me, it's the balance comes in learning ways that I can do the things that I love in the times that I would normally do the things that would just suck up time. For example, for about 4 years, I only watched TV in French and Spanish. So I wasted my time watching TV, but I mean, it was like that, like Hallmark movies. There's Hallmark movies online that are dubbed in French. You always know what's going to happen. There's going to be some snafu and they're going to get back together again. But it's great for learning French. And when I want to veg out, I'm vegging out with that. So if somebody here has a homesteader mindset and they're exhausted, instead of putting on CSI or some crime, like nothing against people that like crime stories, go ahead and watch
French
them. But
Lifetime channel.
exactly. Yeah, so you could do like 1 or 2 videos about homesteading before you go watch your CSI. Don't cut it out, but find ways to kind of sneak it in. And that's called a habit chain. So you do the habit that you want to do before or after the habit that always happens.
Hmm.
For example, when I make veggie juice in the morning, right after that, I'll do my grocery shopping. Like I belong to a Azure Standard, which has a lot of low cost, and you just come once a
Yeah.
week to.
Yep.
And so that is my habit stack. That's my habit chain after that. The other type of habit stack, which James Clear talks about, is habit stacking, which is you do something at the same time. So while I'm washing dishes, because there are a lot of dishes when you start homesteading, like I'm not gonna lie, while I wash dishes, I make that my time to learn something via podcast. So this week it might be something about relationships and personal development. Next week it's healing herbs in the kitchen. And so you can take your whatever kind of ignites you and put it in during the day in something that's already happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dishes are a great time to do stuff like that. I mean,
Hmm.
this house did not come with a dishwasher, so I'm
Oh,
washing dishes, I feel like 24/7.
yeah.
I get that. Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, as a jam like a jam business, like I would have my hands busy and I'm like I would just put stuff on, just like
Mm.
line it all up, like play this, play this, play this, play this, and just set it up. So I
It's
don't.
brilliant, right? It's a brilliant way to feed your brain with, and that doesn't mean you can't do something that's mindless in between, like a funny talk show or whatever. It's not getting rid of all the fun. It's finding productive ways to be fun. So for me, like you talking about making butter, I want to hear about the system for making butter. If you had a podcast on how to make butter, I would probably that would be joyful to me. And so we find the things that ignite our curiosity and give us joy. And then we're not living vicariously through, TV characters. Like I grew up as a latchkey kid. And so I was raised by TV. And then in my 20s, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm just hanging out with these people on the screen. They don't know me. And I don't know them. I just know who these characters are. What if I go out and get myself a Joey and a Monica? That was my time, right? The
Heck
friends.
yeah.
And actually enjoy. And so some of the ways that I do that is community building and volunteering. That's how you meet new people, is having an some sort of um, desire that's similar that can then grow. I mean, think about podcasting, right? It's
Mhm.
really cool that you get to sit down and talk one on one with someone without interruptions. Nobody's looking at their cell phone. Nobody's checking Google. Depends on the podcast. They might fact check you, but nobody's checking
Right?
Google. We're just sitting here having a human interaction, and it's because we happen to have an interest, both of us, in podcasting.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I that's so I just love that you I'm just loving all of this. But like the whole the tiny habit thing and learning new things and it's so exciting, isn't it? I
it's
mean,
exciting.
there's so much to know.
It is. And once you wake up the curiosity muscle, I think it grows it you become much more childlike when you allow yourself to be curious. Kids are fascinating little creatures, right? They go out into a just a dirt patch and they will find something fun to discover. And I want to give adults the permission to do that, like to find things that are fun to discover. What I hear a lot from folks that want to do homesteading is the three big myths, which is I don't have time, I don't have I don't have money, and it's too complicated.
Mhm.
And so there are ways that you can bust those myths. Like you are you have no dishwasher, so your time is limited. You're spending a lot of time doing dishes, but yet you have created butter and you've created bread. How did your 24 hours and you're working and you have a podcast. Like how did your 24 hours get more done than someone else's 24 hours? And the way that we do that is for finding time, we use found time. So
We
what we
sleep
talked
less.
about, like what's that?
Or we sleep less.
Or we sleep less. I love my sleep. I'm a sleepaholic. So you might sleep less, but I'd be cranky if I didn't get sleep or cry. I would cry if I didn't get enough sleep. That would be the torture
Same,
method for anyone trying to get information out of me.
right?
But one of the ways that you find found time is you start looking at ways that you would typically go to distraction. So let's say you're in line and at the DMV and it's going to be an hour. Typically someone would pick up their Facebook and start scrolling. Well, what if you made a Facebook only with didn't have your Aunt Tilly and her cats on it, didn't have your best friends. It just had this particular aspect that one, it was like, how to build a chicken coop is the name of your account, and you only liked people that were building chicken coops. And so when you're at the DMV, you're going through Facebook and you're only seeing, I did this with French before I got rid of all my social media. And now you're using that found time to learn something, or you could have a podcast waiting for you, or you could have a journal where you're going to list the things that you need to do for that next task. This is the way that we create time. Now, not having money, which is the second myth, that's that's kind of silly because homesteading often saves you money, right? You're upcycling, you're reusing. Like the sustainable lifestyle, if you don't do it the 𝗙𝗍𝗂 way, if your boxes don't all match and your jelly jars are a little different sizes, you'll be fine. You can community share, you can, especially for people in urban areas, where I live here, there are people with some really beat up lawns. If I were wanting to get free land, I would go to them and say, "Can I please grow some vegetables here and I'll share them with you?" A
Oh
lot of
my
people,
gosh, that's genius.
right? That's my circle of genius.
Yeah,
Saving money. But
right?
now it's a win-win, right? And then the third one is it's too complicated, and the book is just breaking it down to not make it complicated. Yes, you will have mistakes, like you said, with the sourdough. You're gonna make mistakes. It's gonna be sad sometimes, and your chickens are gonna get lots of sourdough bread. But that doesn't mean that you stop when the going gets tough. Instead, you get more curious and you find ways to make it pleasurable.
Right. And you reach out to other people and say, what am I doing?
Yes.
But that
Yes,
is,
if you
yeah, for me, it's and we were talking about this before we started recording with the whole the homesteading thing and people being very exclusive and stuff like that. But like, and I've said this on the podcast before, like I have a note right behind my computer that says community sufficiency because
mm,
the the thing that I keep hearing with a lot of homesteaders is self-sufficiency. Like I don't need other people. But for me, like I love the homesteading, the vibe, but I don't want to do it alone.
yes.
I need people to give me advice. I need people to share with. I need people, to help. I just need people.
Yeah. Well, humans are social beings, and I do talk about that in my 20s in the book. In my 20s, I thought I had solved it. I'm like, I got it. Like, people are messy. I'm just going to be an island unto myself. Look at me go, And in your 20s, when you don't realize you're mortal and all that kind of stuff, it's a really good time to experiment with that. And it's a very lonely place. I was isolating on my own. And then when I started realizing I bumped into some other 20 somethings that were trying to find their way, I realized how good it feels. We are social creatures. That is how we survive. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean, for some, it might mean you go out into a cave and go off grid. And I think going off grid is really cool. I think it's a wonderful thing to attempt. But when you realize that we're all interconnected, there's a lot of strength there, and it's a much better life when you're connected to others. And that's why I often say find a way to get to gatherings on a regular basis with the same people over and over again. It doesn't have to be your family. For me, I'm a chapter leader for the Weston A. Price Foundation. Have you ever heard of that?
Haven't.
It's just all about nutrient dense food. And they do a lot of science explaining how things like whole eggs are good for you. I know that it's not crazy now it's kind of trendy. Yes, egg yolks are really good, but they were touting this 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And so now I get to meet other people. I make a space for people to all connect and talk. We bring potlucks and we talk about food and we talk about holistic health, and we do that once a month. And if I didn't show up, but I got invited to be one of the co-leaders, but if I didn't show up and help this group occur, it wouldn't occur. So you have to create your own spaces for it. And then, just going around with other people and giving them hugs and seeing someone nod their head or laugh with you or nudge you or, you're helping each other bring stuff in. All of those things are so healthy for your immune system.
Hmm.
Number one, you're increasing your microbiome, right? Because you're sharing microbiome with other people, and then you're sharing your fermented products, which is sharing more microbiomes. So, or good, happy microbes.
And
So
then like
there's
dopamine too, like, right?
yes.
Being together with other people. Yeah.
So important, so important. And so, a lot of times, I will say that there is a strong connection between homesteading, because it's a very mindful life. It's about self-sustainable living, but also mindfulness and mental health, right? You're getting more movement than most people do. You definitely, if you're in with the right homesteading crowd, you're connecting, as a community, and you're also feeling a sense of empowerment, which I think is medicine for hopelessness,
Oh,
right? That was the whole point of I needed ginger and garlic. And so when I was able to grow ginger and garlic, you better bet I did an Irish jig. I was like, I can do it. Look at what I can do. But I needed help from others in order to do that.
yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. I mean, self-sufficient. I go back to this all the time because this is just it's so like front of my mind. But like, that's great. You don't need people. You could do everything yourself. But how fun is that? Like,
Not fun.
but you want to just be there by yourself. I just don't understand it. That's all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love so the Mindset book is so that these three people that you're or the couples, the families that you're is this like fiction? Are were you following actual people?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Some of the experiences are my own.
Okay.
So a few are autobiographical. Some are from people that I know, and some are from experiences that I've read about.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think my the retired couple, I named their dog after my mom and dad's dog. That's like, and there's like a few hat tips to people that I know, but mostly it was I was watching people change their lives in little tiny ways and make incredible changes, and I used their examples in my book.
I love it. Oh my goodness. And do you want to talk about your acupuncture practice a little bit?
Sure. So my acupuncture practice is online. I did have a low-cost acupuncture clinic years ago and closed it, um,
It's
sold it.
online? Sorry.
It's online. Yeah, it's online. I do online. You get some magnets and then we sit down for a consultation and then I treat you based on your points, the points that need to be treated. And it's remarkable because telemedicine has really it's grown in leaps and bounds and it's become more accessible. And you would think that acupuncture is not something that you do. Sometimes I do refer people to my husband's clinic, Green Jade Acupuncture in Orange, California, when they need acupuncture, like they actually need especially for pain, like physical pain. A lot of times it you just get a stronger, but for um, stress-related illnesses, chronic illness, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, those things actually do fairly well with, and even I've had some patients do well with infertility in online sessions.
Oh,
It's just
interesting.
wild. It's wild what the body can do. If you give the body the right signs and kind of help it along, it's amazing how it can heal on its own if we just help it a little bit.
Mm, yeah, I hear that. My goodness. I just love this. This is so fun. And I'm gonna need to reach out to you outside of this. But so I think that I mean, so just going back to, what you had said in the guest form, simple, small changes can lead to an incredibly connected life. And everything that you were doing comes back to that, which is so amazing. Like, I feel like, I like for me, I have jam business, I have podcast, I have work, like I have all these things. And do they really connect? I don't know. But like everything you're doing is so connected. And I love that. Like
Yeah,
you,
that was
like,
accidental.
it was,
It was. It was completely accidental. It's just that, and I think as you get older, your brain, one of the beautiful things about becoming older is you're able to see patterns. So it was accidental. And then I was like, oh, I can use this for this, for this, for this. And so it just happened. Yeah. I would love to take credit for it that I'm just such a high level of brilliance that I was like, I will create a universe of my own. No, no, no. But I was lucky because I'm able to see that all my mistakes have taught me wisdom, have given me some wisdom, and from that wisdom, I'm able to share it with others. I think my biggest personality trait, which one of my friends told me, is that when you learn something, you learn it enthusiastically, and then you love teaching it. I love teaching it, and so what better way than to write a book about it because then someone can take their time getting through. Like this book didn't take that long to write, but it took, my 50 years to create from life experience. It's kind of like sitting down with someone and going, I'm going to spell out what took me years to figure out.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, then you're saving other people that painful process.
I hope
I
so.
mean, it's so valuable. It's so
Yes.
valuable, but it just took a long time to get there. And that's, you were saying that now you can see patterns, and I'm just like, man, I can see it's like the hindsight thing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I get that now. If only,
Yes,
if
exactly.
only I saw it before and I could skip that. But, there's no reason why we can't help the next person
Right.
to not have to do that. Everyone doesn't have to suffer.
Right.
But oh my goodness, I love your vulnerability, and I just love that you're so open to sharing all these things, and that you're so like aware of what you've experienced, and just I mean really the how you realize how valuable what you've learned is for other people. And if of course it's great timing right now with the homesteading talk,
Mhm.
because you know, with eggs and food and ooh, um, but just the timing is just great. I'm just gonna say that.
That was also accidental, but I'm grateful for it too, because again, the thing I want to go back to is the prescription for anxiety is action, and
Mhm.
the prescription for hopelessness is gratitude. And so when we think about, I could easily, and I think, we're women. Part of this human existence. There's common humanity in that we have all felt pain. And if we can take that pain and make it useful, it gets us out of the hopelessness of this is, my life stinks and it's just going to stink some more. Instead, it can be, oh, well, I've learned something quite remarkable and I can share it with others and now it has some meaning.
Mm, wow.
Your sourdough you're gonna be changing people's lives once you get it.
Someday. Uh, I can't figure it. Like I feel like I want to see someone else do it and see what the actual consistency is, because I'm like,
Yes.
is it too loose? Is it too thick? I just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's where I just need some hands-on experience, and my own hands doing it and learning I'm not learning.
Yeah. I wish she lived closer because I know someone that she does the little stamps with the leaves on her bread. Like she makes it
I
fancy.
know. I
She
follow
gave me one.
all
I'm
these
like, oh my
people
gosh.
on Instagram that do these beautiful flowers and everything. Like, I just want it to be edible right now. But that's beautiful, you guys. And when they do, the like focaccia with the herbs and the
Oh,
flowers and stuff, and it's so pretty.
so pretty.
But if I made a lot of sourdough bread, I would be bigger than I am because no one else to eat it.
Yeah, I'm on something called the GAPS protocol with his gut and physiology syndrome. And it's very low carb. There's no bread. And so my husband, he could eat all of your bread and he would just be skinny, like always skinny. He just has an amazing metabolism. But the same for me. Like when I am able to have bread again, I'm gonna have to be a little careful because right out of the oven is when it gets me most.
Oh yeah,
When
the
it's
smell
spongy.
is squishy and
Oh yeah.
yep. Pretty much that. Yeah, and I mean I tend to like when I love to bake treats and stuff, but I'm like I can't I live alone. Like I can't have all that here. And when I was in Maine, I would have it. I was unemployed for 3 weeks, and I put out a little stand outside, and someone stole stuff, but I was like, please buy my stuff. Like I need the money and I can't eat all that. Like
Oh,
I'm
that's
baking to
really
make myself
sweet.
feel better, but at the same time, like I
Yeah.
um but when I say the word sustainability,
Mhm.
Elizabeth, what does that mean to you?
For me, sustainability is a mindfulness connection to your feet on the ground. So, of course, it's to sustain, right? To keep life going, but I think it's also a practice of connecting to your environment, to yourself, to your spirit, to your community. I think it's a spiritual practice. And I think when you acknowledge that, then it becomes the rituals that we do, composting, using plastic, getting rid of plastic, using glass containers, all of those inconveniences, they become these beautiful life affirming rituals. And they also can be a spiritual experience.
I think that's so beautiful. I mean, it makes total sense, especially, I mean, with your connection vibe about you, but like realizing how connected we are to everything. You know, we are part of the earth. The earth is part of us, and we are all a web of connection. Well, I'm gonna say connection again. But and yes, that because I've had several guests, well, I had a guest that just really opened my eyes to like finding awe and like the awe
Mm,
of like the connection.
hmm.
We need to protect this because we are part of it. And because protecting that will also protect us and it will nourish us and it's a beautiful cycle. Um, so thank you for that, the spiritual connection. Oh my goodness. And then I know you're not on socials, Elizabeth, but how can people find you? I mean, we want to look up your book, obviously.
Yes, please. The Homesteader Mindset is available on Amazon or anywhere you buy books, or you can go to the library and request that they order one for you. You can also reach me at createwellnessproject.com. If you'd like, I have a free gift for our listeners. It's a habit tracker that also explains how to create tiny little steps that will create significant change in your life. And you can get that at createwellnessproject.com/gift, GIFT.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. That is super helpful. Sheesh. I did not expect that. That's awesome. Because habits are her thing. And
Habits
she's
are
going
my
to
thing.
share that with everyone. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.
This has been enlightening and super fun. And I can't even like my eyes twitching, but I'm so glad that we connected.
My eye is not twitching, but I'm also glad that we connected. And you're just a very charming host. You make it really easy to chat about all things homesteading. So thank you. And sustainable living. And I'm just really grateful to have met you and have spoken with you today.
Yay. All right, Elizabeth Bruckner, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and all that you're doing in the world.